Holy smokes. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this Rebel Outpost College Football YouTube channel with a donation. Please hit the $ when you make a comment, and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room or with your phone calls later in the show. North Carolina, woo! The Board of Trustees, the chairman of the board. In an interview, as you can see what the title of the show is called, we are very, very, very open to pursuing all options. North Carolina. Now, you know, we reported here at Peek Around the Corner a couple months ago, put North Carolina up at the stage in the Holy Smokes Theater for those who are new to our channel. And we said that Clemson and North Carolina were holding hands up on the stage. We might have to take a small L on that here at Peek Around the Corner. March 21st. I don't think they might not be holding hands. They might be in a full embrace. We might have undersold the connection. Because if you notice, the Board of Trustees, the chairman of the board says this now, right after Clemson's actions, right before the NCAA tournament where North Carolina Tar Heels men's basketball team has the number 1 seed. But he says it now. They're at least holding hands. I think we might have to change it. We might have to make an official change that they're not holding hands on the edge of the stage, that they are in a full embrace. And that's, by the way, the popcorn is sold out. The popcorn is sold out. So Jared Jones, Mr. Buckeye, I see that you're in the chat. Jared Jones, go get some popcorn. Get it shipped over to the Holy Smokes Theater. The popcorn has been sold out. Okay. Now, but before I get to the North Carolina story, I first want to thank everybody who's coming. I know you all want to start watching basketball in an hour or so. I don't believe this is going to be another 2 hours and 50 minute show that we've been having lately. But we did have to hit on this story. But before we do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Miami. Things are being said this morning that just are not accurate. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have to be the person that does this. The athletic director, Radakovich, said some stuff today, in an early morning interview on a radio station, and people are once again going to some place that just is not accurate. And I'm going to point it out. The same people are making the same mistake that they did during the Big 12 saga. Where any time the president of Colorado or the athletic director of Colorado said, no, Pac-12, we're staying in there, we love this, Utah athletic director, they're making the same mistake. When somebody says something in public, first of all, a lot of times it means nothing. You got to understand when it does mean something. When you are an athletic director and you're praising your conference, you are protecting your athletic department. I mean, look what Bubba Cunningham has said. We're going to get into it. Look what Bubba Cunningham has said for North Carolina, the athletic director. Now, we reported to you on this live show that Bubba Cunningham, we said this a couple weeks ago, he's getting pushed out. He's not the decision maker. He doesn't have the stroke anymore at North Carolina. He's of the old guard. He's of the Mike Gusowich guard, before Mike Gusowich, the chancellor who went to Michigan State. There is a new guard at North Carolina. We've been telling you this. But again, don't overshoot when it comes to what an athletic director says in public. We're going to get into that because Miami's athletic director said something in public. I'll explain it. But we're going to hit that first. Then we're going to go to the North Carolina story. But let me thank everybody who's come in to the chat at the beginning of the show. We got Patrick, the Baylor Bear. He's in the house. Jared Jones, I hope he's getting that popcorn. I hope he's ordering and getting that popcorn to get to the loading dock at the Holy Smokes Theater. It's in by door the loading dock. What's that word? Go to door B. Go to sliding door B. Get the popcorn in. The popcorn line. The popcorn is selling like crazy. Nick Borgman is in the house. Kirk Bender, Mr. Monkey Says, Stephen McNeely, The Walking Geek, Laura Weiss, Red Raider, Penn State is in the house. Charlie Atwood, KS Bear FN, Steve-O, did you get any sleep? No, I did not. I'll get plenty of sleep when they bury me 6 feet in the ground. Don in Kansas is in the house. Larry the GM, Jimmy, Rod Force Sooner 1 is in the house. Raider Vision, Bill G. Gator, Hater, Wesley O'Connor. For the Canes, Mr. Monkey Says, Skull Ducky, good morning to everybody. The Architect is in the house. Coy is in the house. Cameron B. Rock Chalk Jayhawk is here in the house at the beginning of the show. We got Oakley Burklow, Hoodin Ninja 4, Crab Cakes and Football, Mr. Terrapin, Movie Time Blues, Preston from Greensboro. Wow. Time to move. Go Heels, Jen. No, 2013. Oh, now morning fellow felons of Clemson. Felons. That's the shot at the ESPN. Basically calling out Florida State's lawyers as possible felons. That's a good one. Secret Agent is in the house. Michael Uten, Generation Sega. Friends, Call Me Sean. I'm Ready Brother, Jared Jones, Bill G. Boy, a lot of people here. Jay Chapman. P. Digits is here. Stephen McNeely. Clinton Moses. James Foster. Ronnie Gregg. Bo Stacker. Kill Ball. Robbie Heck Music. The No's are here. Kyle Visser. Okay, let me get to... first of all, our big story is what broke late last night. And yes, I was all over X talking about this, telling everybody, shoot, I would have had a live show at 1 o'clock in the morning Central Time. I was all ready to go on live, but I didn't think anybody would show up. So we decided to make it 10 o'clock Central Time. This morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, I did come on a little late. I do apologize for that. Inside Carolina 247, University of North Carolina Board of Trustees, the chair, responds to Clemson's lawsuit against the ACC, calls for conference transparency. And this is the title of our live show this March 21st. Now is the time to be very open to pursuing all options. Wow. Now, the Board of Trustees, the chair, again, the Board of Trustees at North Carolina, there has been what I would call a revolution. A lot of people are uncomfortable about what's going on at North Carolina. Some people are. There was a big rock fight that's been going on for the last year. The new guard of UNC Chapel Hill basically pushed out Mike Gusowich. They're being very aggressive in realignment. The Board of Governors have now more power. And they overlook North Carolina State, and 14 other public schools at North Carolina. We've been through that. We've covered it like nobody else. Okay, this is the Board of Trustees talking, the chair. But first, before we hit this major story, before we hit this major story, I need to talk about Miami. As you all know, we put Miami on the stage, and there they will stay. It's Florida State at the center of the stage, Clemson and North Carolina holding hands at the edge of the stage. The spotlight is a little bit on them, and then it's Miami, and then Notre Dame is in the far edge of the stage, where the edge of the curtain is. They're in the shadows, but Miami is there between North Carolina and Notre Dame. And we said it at the time, Miami is not ready to pull any triggers. They're not ready to go to court. They've done work, and they have received third-party evaluations, just like everybody else. This morning, the athletic director of Miami, of Florida, in a Miami Hurricanes, in an interview, local interview, basically said, yay, yay, rah, rah, ACC. The ground of rights, we'll see what happens. They're difficult to get out of. Basically a rah, rah. But then at the end was like, well, if something happens, we'll take a look at it in regards to the court case. I'm not going to go through the interview because I appreciate the people who gave it to me on DM, but it doesn't reflect the reality. Just like when Bubba Cunningham goes on there and says, Florida State, they shouldn't be talking out. ACC is our home, and it doesn't mean anything. It would mean something if the athletic director took a shot at the ACC. But if they're just playing the public game where they don't, according to the ACC bylaws, you can't even say out loud anything negative about the grant of rights, about the exit fee. Did you watch our show last night? Did you watch how Clemson, they're being, ACC is going as hard at Clemson as they did at Florida State. And Clemson, they were pretty narrow and focused in their complaint. They were not as aggressive as Florida State in some of their verbiage, but to the ACC, it doesn't matter. You cannot speak ill will about the grant of rights or the exit fee. It's in the ACC bylaws, or you can get sued for damages. Miami's athletic director is just, we talked about the president of Miami. He's very cautious, but Miami has done the work. And with third-party talks and what we've been able to tell you, Fox Sports, Miami is in the mix. They're in the game. Let me show you something. We got this guy again. Every time that Colorado said, we have no interest in leaving the Pac-12, we're staying in the Pac-12, we're committed members to the Pac. This guy and his buddies all jumped in and said, oh, see, the Pac-12 can't possibly poach the Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 can't possibly poach the Pac-12. This is all a conspiracy, right? Conspiracy. Endeavor was the one, and they were using college football reporters. Remember this guy and that Tony guy, where every time someone said something for public consumption to protect their university, they never understood the lay of the land. Things were going heavy behind the curtain. They didn't know it. They didn't understand it. They don't get it even today. Miami, listen to this tweet now. Just listen to this tweet. Miami doesn't hold a P2 offer if you read between the lines. I'm going to get to that. Left unsaid. If Clemson and Florida State do leave the ACC, where would that leave Miami? Radakovich also didn't rule out eventually having two mega conferences, but said that will all hinge on TVs coming together and determine that. I don't see that in the short term. Well, that's what we've been reporting for 2 years, for many years before that, but since we've had the YouTube channel. Miami doesn't hold a P2 offer if you read between the lines. There is no reading between the lines. Nobody holds a P2 offer. That's reality. That is. Florida State does not hold an offer from the Big Ten or the SEC. These conferences, they have big legal counsel. You see how ACC, they've got a whole bunch of lawyers. They've hired lawyers. Now they've got dual cases going on. The Big Ten and the SEC, they have to pass, before they say anything, before the commissioners, before they talk to any school that's outside the conference, their legal counsel has to okay it. Nobody has offered jack to anybody. Nobody has talked firsthand to firsthand, nobody has talked officially. No offer has been given out. None. Nothing is promised to anybody. What they do have, what Florida State does have, is positive third-party evaluations. That's what they have. They believe, and I would agree with them, they believe that there would be a landing spot in the SEC or the Big Ten. Clemson, as I've been telling you, they've also had positive third-party evaluations. Miami has them as well. I know a lot of people won't believe me. That's fine. But my point is, all they have is third-party evaluations. That's what they got. And they've worked hard to get in it. Can I let me point this out. Clemson, when they filed that suit, and we covered it live, breaking, here at Peek Around the Corner. The first part of their suit, Clemson was talking about how we are unable, we need a declaratory decision, statement, and whether this score is valid or not. If we leave the conference, do we own it? The exit feed. Clemson needs a declaratory statement as soon as possible from the courts, because we can't have meaningful discussions with other conferences. That's what Clemson said. That's what their lawyers said. And you know why they said it? Because they can't. They can't. Big Ten, we've told you from the very beginning, when we open up the Holy Smokes Theater to the next drama, the ACC drama, the very first thing we reported to you is there can be third-party discussions. In other words, nobody representing the Big Ten and the SEC directly, nobody representing Fox and ESPN directly. Clemson hired a consulting firm. Florida State has done a whole bunch of work. Miami has done some as well. You don't have offers. Nobody has an offer in hand. Clemson, one of their frustrations is they can't really can't get to meaningful conversations. Those were their exact words in that lawsuit. And it's true. I'm sorry, it is. None of this is, I know there's theories out there saying, well, all this is predetermined. Everything is already settled. We're just going through the motions. No, that's not how this works. It's not how it works. So, and then, The same fella says even if the public words don't match what could be said behind closed doors, it is still sad to see this. A once prominent football program that won multiple national titles in football isn't pounding the table to get out to be associated with the Big Two in public facing. Not good. Same exact thing that him and others said about Colorado, about Arizona State, about Utah, about Washington, about Oregon. Same thing. They're falling for the same thing. I just don't want you to all fall for it. I don't want you to fall for it. Nothing is promised to Miami, Florida State, anybody. But there are schools that have received positive evaluations. They feel pretty good about this situation. Florida State pulled the trigger. They pulled the trigger a little bit quicker than they thought they were going to, but the whole CFP, they got screwed. So it gave them more motivation. They pulled the trigger. Clemson looks like they delayed it a little bit, but they pulled the trigger. North Carolina, Bubba Cunningham is saying all sorts of things about pro-ACC. The chairman of the Board of Regents talks about it in this interview that we're just about to go through. Does that mean that North Carolina isn't looking to get out? Of course they are. Okay, let's get to it. Let me first get to some generous super chats. Rock and Rant, I'm here, but avoiding the chat for a while. Thank you, Rock and Rant, for your super chat, for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Derek Marie, thank you so much for becoming an early Pete Cloak and Dagger member. Thank you for your generosity, Derek Marie. You are hereby Cloak and Dagger Knighted. Thank you so much for your generosity, Derek Marie. You can go watch early peak episodes, membership only episodes, Cloak and Dagger. You can do that after this live show. Patrick, the Baylor Bear, UNC and the rest of the schools should already be approaching ESPN to ask what level of new media revenue. Can't do it. ESPN can't do that. That is not what's going on. I mean, it can't be done officially. There's valuations going on. Look, guys, this is different than the Big 12. In the Pac-12, because the Pac-12, the grant of rights was going to end in another year. The grant of rights for the ACC is not going to end to 2036. That grant of rights either has to be defeated or there has to be a settlement before there can be any serious talks with the parties. Third-party valuations is about as far as anybody can go on this. That's why Clemson said in its lawsuit, we can't have any meaningful discussions with the media companies and with conferences. That's what Clemson said. And it's true. They can't. And it's frustrating. They use the word frustrating. That's the truth. Clemson does not have an official offer. Florida State doesn't either. North Carolina. That's not how this works. It's not how this works. So anybody telling you that somebody has an official offer and somebody doesn't, and they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to be blunt with you. They don't have a clue what's going on. Thank you for the super chat. Patrick, I do appreciate your generosity. Carrie, Greg, what's your honest opinion of where Miami will land? All seriousness, I say the Big 12. I think the odds favor Miami to get into the SEC of the Big 10. But nothing is guaranteed, Miami. But the odds favor them to get to the SEC in the Big 10 slightly. Carrie, thank you for the super chat. Carrie, once again, here at the University of Miami, we're incredibly solid with the ACC. It's a great conference. This is why I'm talking about it. North Carolina is the big story today. And this is why and it's not just you, Carrie. It's not just Rock and Rant. I got an avalanche. And quite honestly, it is everything I would expect Miami's athletic director to say. The athletic director has to protect the athletic department and its purse strings. Have you noticed Florida State athletic director since February 24th, 2023? Have you noticed that he has stayed silent? No athletic director is going to come out there and rip their conference right now. Nobody is going to risk damages from the ACC right now unless you're willing to go all in and go to the courts, what Clemson has just done. But Miami is not in that spot. There's a reason why Miami is the fourth on the stage, from the center of the stage. But don't get it twisted. They're on the stage for a reason. A lot of it has to do with Fox Sports. But I do appreciate the super chats. I knew this was coming. That's why I started the show with the Miami talk. I have seen a lot of tweets, message boards. I have seen Miami fans getting all upset at their athletic director. Their athletic director was asked questions about it, and he could not have answered it any differently. He has to toe the company line to protect the athletic department. Miami's doing what we're all doing, except a little bit extra, but they're waiting to see what happens tomorrow, March 22nd, in Mecklenburg County, April 9th, what happens in Leon County. They're going to wait on the Clemson case, but Miami has done some work. You don't want to believe what I'm saying, that's fine. But Pete Thamel yesterday said Miami's not ready, but there has been chatter. That's what Pete Thamel said on the College Game Day podcast. This was hours after we put Miami on the stage. There's been chatter. Miami's working on it. But the athletic director's not going to come out and say it. I'm sorry. He's an athletic director. That's not his job. Now, maybe at some point, the chairman of their board in Miami might say something. I don't think the president will. That's his personality. He's very cautious about all this. He might say something, just like what the UNC Board of Trustees, the chairman of the board, said yesterday. Now, that is news. That is meat on the bone, and we're going to hit it right now. Okay. Let's get to it. UNC Board of Trustees chair calls for ACC transparency. Now, this is something else. This is news, not what the athletic director of Miami said. This is news. North Carolina Board of Trustees Chair John Pryor shared his thoughts on Clemson's lawsuit filed against the conference in Pickens County, South Carolina on Tuesday. On Tuesday, nearly 3 months into the day since Florida State sued the athletic Atlantic Coast Conference to challenge the league's grant of media rights and exit fee, Clemson became the second ACC member to file suit against the ACC, albeit with a more tactful approach. The Tigers are seeking a declaration of their rights related to the scope of the grant of rights, the invalidity, the unenforceability of the ACC's $140 million exit fee, and the non-existence of the fiduciary duties the conference claims members owe to the league while maintaining its status as a league member. However, the crux of the Clemson lawsuit seems to revolve around the matter of disclosure and clarity. The ACC has operated in a clandestine manner with regard to its grant of rights in the ESPN agreements that have become central to the league discussions pertaining to the conference realignment, especially the media agreement between the ACC and ESPN, as Clemson said in their lawsuit, as Florida State said in their lawsuit. That agreement is not out in public view, and according to Clemson, if you read those two together, if you read the ACC grant of rights along with that media agreement, that distribution agreement, ESPN of ACC content, if you read that media agreement along with the grant of rights, it's plainly seen, it's plain language to say that Clemson should be able to hold their own media rights if they leave the conference because of a narrow in scope grant of rights that the ACC did with their members. It's difficult to understand the intricate details involved because member institutions are limited in what information they can access and share publicly. The big one is shared publicly. Clemson put out in their lawsuit that, look, the media's got it wrong. We can't have meaningful conversations with conferences or sponsorships. We can't even have meaningful conversations within the conference about more unequal revenue sharing. Clemson is stuck. And one of the things that Clemson is saying is that media agreement between the ACC and the ESPN, there's some language in there. We can't tell you what it is. ACC won't show you. ESPN calls it trade secrets. They don't want anybody to see it, but that's what Clemson wants out in public. The lawsuit states that ACC has cast a harmful cloud of doubt on Clemson's ability to engage in meaningful discussions with other conferences and media providers. And that's what I spent the first part of the monologue on. All that is true. So again, nobody has an offer from a P2. That's ridiculous to say, to put out. We're at the time, ladies and gentlemen, that I got to be more blunt about this because we're getting waves of bad information out there. Clemson's ability to engage in meaningful discussion with other conferences and media providers regarding potential future collaborations and or to negotiate alternative revenue sharing proposals among ACC members. For Clemson to move ahead and ensure that it may continue to act in furtherance of its institutional mission, that cloud must be lifted. Again, we covered that in our live show 2 days ago. The ACC responded, and we covered this on a live show last night. The ACC responded with a filing on Wednesday afternoon, asking for a declaration barring Clemson from challenging the validity of the grant of rights, among other actions. You can't even challenge it. You can't challenge it. You can't say anything bad about it in public. You just can't do it. Or ACC will at least threaten you for damages. That's the same language the league used in its response to Florida State. Again, Miami's athletic director wasn't going to say anything different than he did this morning. No way, no how. It's a non-story. UNC joined Florida State and Clemson in voting against conference expansion in September. They were outvoted 12-3 in a decision that extended invites to Stanford, California, and SMU to join the league beginning in 24 and 25. Opponents have raised concerns about the expansion diluting the voting power of prominent league members willing to challenge the status quo. Now, here we go. Now we're getting into the juice. Now we're getting into the best part of the steak, the fatty part of the steak, on the outside of what are we going with? We'll just go with the New York strip on this one. I think that what Clemson is doing is 100% proof positive that a significant portion of the membership of the conference is unhappy. I think that what Clemson is doing 100% proof positive that a significant portion of the membership of the conference is unhappy. UNC Board of Trustees Chair John Pryor told ES Inside Carolina Wednesday, significant portion. In other words, the big powers of the ACC, the significant portion. Not necessarily a plurality, but a significant portion. It's not just North Carolina, Clemson, and Florida State. I don't see this, again, John Pryor, UNC Board of Trustees Chair, I don't see how it is in anyone's interest for the ACC leadership to try to and browbeat its member schools from getting access to information and being transparent. And that's kind of the case Clemson is making. Now, the Board of Trustees, the chair, can say things that your athletic director cannot. First of all, let's put that out there. Second is the trustees, the Board of Trustees, John Pryor, is really going after the ACC, going after Clemson in Florida State in regards to wanting to have access to information. Again, we talked about it last night. It's Clemson, Florida State, probably North Carolina. Their perception of what the Achilles heel is for ACC is that media agreement between the ACC and ESPN. There is some language in there. Now, I'm speculating, ladies and gentlemen, but there must be some language in there that plainly states, you know, if one of your schools leave, we're okay, ESPN, we're okay because maybe they'll move them to the SEC. There's something in there. That's why Clemson is pointing to that. Florida State is pointing to that. And ESPN says that cannot be opened up because that's our trade secrets. And ACC talks about everything but that agreement, that media agreement. Clemson noted in its lawsuit that the ACC office did not hold a vote requesting that its members approve of its lawsuit against Florida State, nor had Clemson ever authorized the league's lawsuit against Florida State. And I think we all believe that, right? I mean, that first lawsuit on December 21st, the conference did not hold a vote. Suddenly they did, though, on January 12th for the extended complaint on January 17th. Suddenly the ACC did all that voting, but they didn't do it for the initial one. And that's also an Achilles heel, in my estimation, when it comes to the court case in Mecklenburg County. That alone might give Florida State home field advantage in having that whole thing play out in Leon County. With two prominent ACC schools electing to sue the ACC pertaining to the grant of rights over the past 3 months, speculation has turned to UNC's next steps and if Clemson's filing on Tuesday has expedited the university's actions in pursuing all potential options. I think it's too soon to tell, Pryor said, but it certainly creates added pressure on the conference to address the concerns of its member schools. In January, Pryor told Inside Carolina that it was incumbent upon UNC's leadership to do what was in the university's best interest when it came to dramatic changes taking place across the collegiate landscape, and that those leaders had an obligation to assess the financial realities of growing revenue gaps between conferences and make the best decision for UNC based on that available data. UNC's athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, was more cautious in his interview with Inside Carolina last month, highlighting UNC's obligation in being a great partner in supporting the ACC, while the school takes a measured approach amid the current unknowns that exist within the NCAA framework and conference realignment nationally. There are two things going on here. One is Bubba Cunningham, like all the athletic directors, are taking more of a cautious approach because they have to. And just because the athletic director is saying this in public doesn't mean the university is not taking some actions behind the curtain. How many examples have we seen of this? So for those who are jumping on this, that Miami athletic director said this morning, it doesn't mean diddly squat. I'm telling you, it doesn't. Now, there is a separation between John Pryor and Bubba Cunningham, but it doesn't really have to do with this. And I'm going to get to that right now. There was a clear difference in opinion in the interviews and how to guide North Carolina through this pivotal moment in collegiate athletics, which suggests a point of contention between the University Board of Trustees and its athletic director. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have reported to you here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, giving you that peek. The contention isn't just between, look, there has been a rock fight going on at University North Carolina, Chapel Hill for over the last, couple years, especially within the last year. We told you of the changing of the guard. We told you that there's a change in landscape at North Carolina. This is not the same North Carolina that Jim Delaney has been talking to cloak and dagger style for 2 decades. This is not Bubba Cunningham's North Carolina anymore. They pushed out Mike Gusowich. They're about to do the same to Bubba Cunningham. That's the contention. We've known about it for quite a while. It has nothing really to do with what Bubba Cunningham said in public, being a caution athletic director. This, if you're part of the PATC community, and you have been for a while, this does not come as a surprise to you. Bubba Cunningham is part of the old guard. He's not a decision maker anymore. What changes happen, when this is going to happen, this change at the athletic director spot, I do not know. But this is not the same North Carolina that Bubba Cunningham came into. For good, for bad, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just telling you, it's different. It is a potential conflict, Pryor said, and it's something that is disturbing based on some of the comments he's made recently, which seems to support the ACC at the expense of Carolina. That's a bad look. I think we all recognize that change is hard, but sometimes change is exactly what is needed. And I think Pryor is saying, I think we all recognize that change is hard, but sometimes change is exactly what is needed. I think that's basically a statement for everything that is going on at North Carolina. They're moving away from the ACC. They're going to try to move away from the ACC. They know what is going on in the changing landscape. They know that they had to move out the old guard of Mike Gusowich. The Board of Trustees lean SEC. The Board of Governors heavily lean SEC. Bobby Cunningham is from the old guard. So this is what you're witnessing. We all have to fight the comfort of complacency. And I think that now is the time to be very open to pursuing all options. And I think this is the PATC money shot of the article. This is the PATC money shot of this live show. The Board of Trustees, the chairman of the board. And I think that now is the time to be very open to pursuing all options, including those beyond remaining in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He did not say we're open to looking at, we're open to opening up a committee. We're going to have meetings on it. I think that now is the time to be very open to pursuing all options. Pursuing. This, we're almost done. We got one more page, and then I'm going to talk about it. The Board of Trustees will hold their regular meeting this month, next Wednesday and Thursday in Chapel Hill, where UNC's future options will continue to be a topic of discussion following Clemson's lawsuit filed in Pickens County, South Carolina on Tuesday. They're having a meeting March 27th, 28th. I'm going to put up the agenda. It's hard to see. I'm going to try to figure out a better way to do it. Where UNC's future options will continue to be a topic of discussion. Okay. Let me figure out a better way. Hold on. I want to show you guys something. First of all, holy smokes, Opie. Wow, another big time super chat contribution to the channel. Keeping our lights on. Opie, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Once again, you have been an original PATC community member. You kept this place going. I appreciate it, Opie, so very much. Flugs, I'm at the counter. And not only is the popcorn... Okay. Yeah, you know, maybe we don't pay our employees enough at the Holy Smokes Theater. We'll have to look at that. Flugs, I'm at the counter, and not only is the popcorn out, but the soda is low. Probably has no more carbonation either. But they have a ton of Raisinets. Wow. Fat guy from Minnesota. You got to have Raisinets. We're well stocked on Raisinets. Never liked them. Things in the Holy Smokes Theater, even the icy machine is running. Holy smokes, nothing is working. Go fund the counter and breakfast tacos for the little general. Wow, she'll love those little breakfast tacos. Thank you so much, Opie, for your incredible friendship and generosity to the channel. Wow. Thank you so very much. And you always have a very creative comment to go with that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me see if, what else have I missed here? That's about it. Thank you. I appreciate it, Opie, so very much. Let me get to, Opie always has creative. He always has creative comments with his very generous super chats. Okay, let me figure out something here. I apologize once again. I know it's a live show, and the host doesn't know what he's doing. We all understand that. Let me see here. I don't want that, but I do want this. Okay, now let me see. Okay, I'm hoping that's the best I can do. This is, so there is 2 meetings at North Carolina next week. Okay, March 27th, March 28th. I don't have the March 27th agenda. It did not seem to me that it had anything to do with what we're talking about today. But the March 28th, it's an open session. John Pryor opens it up. There's a roll call, statement of ethics, consent agenda. And then there's a Board of Trustees chair remarks, John Pryor. And then there's the Chancellor's remark, Lee H. Roberts, interim Chancellor. So I think 5 and 8 is, it will very well could be of importance. So Thursday, start 9 a.m. Eastern time, and this is going to be streamed. I'm going to do the best I can to go have a live show during it. And I think 5 and 8, I think a little bit later on, a couple hours after the meeting has begun, we're going to get some remarks from the chair and from the chancellor. And I would bet that at least one of those is having to do with what's going on with Clemson, Florida State, and the ACC. So, what does that all mean? Tomorrow, March 22nd, we have the court case in Mecklenburg County, 9:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Central Time. We're going to be coming on live about 9:30 or 10 Central Time. We're going to let this marinate. We're going to let the reports come flowing out of this meeting. There's going to be reporters there. Then we're going to do a live. We'll go on live. We'll all keep our head on a swivel. We'll try to gather all the information that is going on. That's March 22nd. We do not expect. We've talked to experts on this, Doug Rohan and others. They don't believe any decision is going to be made in Mecklenburg County by Judge Cooper on March 22nd. But, maybe that following Monday, possibly Tuesday or Wednesday. Maybe March 26th, Tuesday. Maybe March 27th, Wednesday. And then we got North Carolina Board of Trustees happen 27 and 28. So we got a busy week again next week. Just to give you the lay of the land and what's going on. Also, we expect today for there to be a Clemson counter motion in Mecklenburg County today. Remember, Clemson filed in Pickens County. Then the ACC went back to Mecklenburg County against Clemson. We expect a Clemson motion in Mecklenburg County today. So if that happens, and we think it's going to happen, we're probably going to have to go on live again later today. So if you're new to our channel, if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button, smash the like button if you like our content, and share the video with your family and friends. Now, let's get to, there's more I wanted to get to here. Okay. So let's talk about it. North Carolina, the Board of Trustees, the chairman of the board, open to pursuing all options. I think that now is the time to be very open to pursuing all options, including those beyond remaining in the Atlantic Coast Conference. They've had these discussions internally at North Carolina, obviously. In the state of North Carolina, the Board of Governors, not the Board of Trustees, but the Board of Governors, Peter Hands, 24 members, the chair of the Board of Governors is a big-time North Carolina State alumnus. You would call him North Carolina State money perch. Remember, the Board of Governors have to okay any financial plan that North Carolina would submit to them if North Carolina chooses to leave to change their conference affiliation. I think North Carolina is going to wait to see what happens here in Mecklenburg County this Friday, April 9th in Leon County. But when you have North Carolina, the board, the chairman of the board talking in this language, the Board of Regents are aligned. There's no question that the interim president is aligned because that's why he's the interim president. And no, it does not matter that he's a former Duke alumnus. Doesn't matter. This is why one of the reasons why there was celebration in some circles that when Mike Gusowich left as the chancellor of North Carolina and went to Michigan State. All this is connected. All of this is connected. North Carolina is at the stage holding hands with Clemson. North Carolina Board of Trustees did not comment after what Florida State said and did. They commented after what Clemson did. North Carolina is holding hands with Clemson, not Florida State. Florida State went heavy against ESPN. If you ask me, they had a lot of good motivations to do so, but Florida State went heavy against ESPN in public and in the lawsuit. Then ESPN went heavy against Florida State, even possibly accusing Florida State lawyers of committing a felony because they were unveiling some trade secrets of ESPN. But did you notice that Clemson did not do that? Clemson did not go heavy at ESPN. So nothing is promised to anybody at this point. According to PATC, with people we talk to, we're not closing any doors at any possibility. It very well could be once the ACC implodes that the SEC could eat first three times or the first 4 times. It might be in North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State. Although we believe the chalk is Florida State goes to the Big Ten and North Carolina to Clemson to the SEC. But nothing is guaranteed to anybody. We're not closing the door on anything. But if you notice the timing of all this, what people are saying, what people are not saying, Clemson did not go after ESPN. Florida State did. North Carolina Board of Trustees, the chair, makes this interview right after Clemson's argument in the court. Florida State made that same argument when it came to transparency. Florida State went out there first. They tipped their toes in the hot waters. They went out there and said ESPN, ACC, that media agreement between the two, everybody needs to see that. The court needs to see that. North Carolina Board of Trustees chair did not say a word, but he said it right after Clemson said it. And my question, it's just all speculation, but what is in that media agreement between between ESPN and the ACC? What plain language does it state? According to Clemson, it says a lot. What is in there? What does it say? I'm going to open up the phone lines. Again, we're not going to do a long show. I know people want to watch NCAA basketball. This is a college football YouTube channel, so I do apologize for stepping on all your toes because you want to watch basketball, but we had to cover this. With North Carolina, the titular head, the head, Tobacco Road of the old ACC since the 1950s, when North Carolina Board of Trustees chairman says the following: we are now open to pursue all options, including those that would outside of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Holy smokes. Phone lines are now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. The line is now open. Give us a call. I'm going to see if there's any other reporting on this. I know basically it's college football day today, college basketball day today, but we could not let this go. We could not let this go. This had to be talked about this morning.
Call from
Steve-O.
Steve-O, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. I'm just wondering if ESPN came out and said they were not going to extend the contract with the ACC, would that allow the ACC schools then to approach Fox or the SEC and the Big Ten?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because if today ESPN came out and said we're not extending that contract beyond 2027, that means there would still be a contract until 2027. The ACC still holds all the schools' grant of rights, their media ownership, until 2027. Now, 3 years is a lot less than 13 years, right? But I think everyone would still be wary of having discussions with these schools. I really think so. I really think. Now these schools might wait it out, right? They might just go 3 years and then get out. So it might change everything. But I don't think they can have meaningful conversations, even if ESPN declares today that they can pull the plug. I don't think Clemson can have a conversation with the Big Ten or the SEC. Not yet. Not in 2024.
Well, you can't really wait till the last minute.
You can't wait till the last minute, but 3 years is still, the Big 12, the Pac-12 did it with the year left. Now, there might be some maybe there can be some agreement made between the ACC and those schools. Maybe that can happen. But, the Big Ten and the SEC in any conference, they're going to be very wary of communication. Like, for example, in realignment, it always starts with the school calling the conference first. It's never the conference calling the school first. So the school calls the conference first. The best that the conference can do is go talk to the media company, get some valuation, and give some loose valuation back to the school. And that is with maybe a school having a year or 2 years left on their grant of rights. So they're very careful with going after schools, talking to schools that have multiple years left in their grant. It just isn't done. 3 years, I don't know. It's questionable. I'll put it. That's the best I can put it.
Okay.
Because there still would be a grant of rights, ACC grant of rights.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg.
You got it. Appreciate it. Great call. Thank you, Steve-O from Alabama. Okay, let's see here. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? King spleen. If ESPN doesn't extend the media right, the ACC would have the right to negotiate with Fox or any other company. However, the schools cannot speak with other conferences. The schools can call them up and talk to them. But the conferences can't target other schools. There can be some information eventually. Look, these schools do have some information about their valuations. They just can't have real meaningful discussions, as ESPN stated in their lawsuit.
Call from
ABO Prep Corp.
Soap is on the line. Soap, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, Greg. Thank you for taking my call. I greatly appreciate it.
You got it.
Greg, let me ask you, when do SMU, Cal, and Stanford obtain voting rights for
I believe July 1st, 2024.
That's what I thought. I thought it was July or August at the latest. That being said, if there's going to be any vote in the ACC on dilution of the conference, or that needs to happen before that time, because as it is, they would need 8 votes in their current structure. With the 3 schools coming in, they would need 10. Makes it much more difficult for them to do. And we have Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina already committed. That leaves 5 more. I guess you could put in Notre Dame. Does Notre Dame vote on that board?
Yes.
Okay, so Notre Dame would probably vote. Miami. So 3 more schools. What 3 schools do you think those would be, Greg?
I don't know, and I don't think it. The problem with all that is they've looked into all that. They could have gotten an 8th school. They could have done that already. But the reason they did not do that, the reason the Magnificent Seven did not include an 8th team and already done all that, is because their lawyers told them you'd still be under the ACC grant of rights. So doing all that doesn't. If those 8 to 10 ACC schools voted to dissolve the conference, okay, all they would be doing would have to be negotiating with them. They wouldn't have their own media rights. It would be a conference that would have no value. The ACC still would hold their. Because the ACC, you know what the ACC would do? They would quickly backfill. They would still remain some sort of conference. They would get other people in there.
If the conference were dissolved, all of the assets would go to the individual members.
It isn't going to. Okay. Well, I don't normally. In fact, I don't like this. What I'm about to say. Normally, I don't like it when people say, if it was going to happen, it would have already been done, right? I've often said that on the show. I said, man, I can't stand that because things are constantly changing. Just because things didn't happen in the past could happen in the future. But this is one of those things. Is if that was the solution, if they thought that would work, that would have already been done easily.
Well, I think it's got everything to do with the renewal of the rights in 2027. If ESPN doesn't do that, then there are grounds. If ESPN were to come out and announce at a strategic time before July 1st that they were not going to renew those rights, that would then give them leverage to say, okay, as of 2027, we have no grant of rights. We have no deal. And we are dissolving this league. And Commissioner, you're fired. Everybody on the staff is fired, and we're taking all of the belongings of the ACC and splitting them up among all of the members. And all we need are 8 votes to do that. Is that a possibility?
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Again, I know. I mean, let me flip the coin the other way. If it was that easy for 8 schools to get together, dissolve the conference, and then have their own media rights, why hasn't it been done?
Well,
why
I
go
think
through the
you
courts?
said it. Yeah, you said it yourself, Greg. I mean, the media rights would continue through
to
through,
2027.
but if they don't have a contract, I mean, you've said it before. There are two contracts. There's one which is the grant of rights, and one which is the ESPN contract. And my contention is, if the ESPN contract does not exist, there is no grant of rights. That they have to have that they signed that extension based upon they signed the extension of the grant of rights based upon the extension of the ESPN contract. They extended it out to 36. It is 36, right? Yeah, 36.
Yeah, but the grant of rights would go out to 2027.
Right. So as of 2027,
Yes.
that the grant of rights are gone. So
sure. Yes. Under that scenario, yes.
Yeah. So if ESPN comes out and says we are discontinuing the grant of rights, all you're looking at is a 2-year time frame in there.
Yeah.
For the 25 season, and we're not going to do anything for the 25 season. So all you're looking at is negotiating the 26 season. So I mean, you said it perfectly, Greg. I cannot emphasize to everybody listening that you have nailed it from the start. That if once these places come out and say we're interested in looking at other places, they don't go back. It's pretty much written in stone that they're not going to. Florida State's not backing down.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a done deal. They're gone.
Yeah,
and you have to listen to the words. They could sit there and say that, oh, we're proud members of the ACC, and it means nothing until they make some type of formal statement. And this is going to implode quicker than maybe we thought, because and I'll just make this quick statement and see what you think about it, Greg. I found it quite interesting that in the 2 lawsuits, in the first lawsuit, it says that that they did not need to have a vote to file suit because there was no financial aspect to it. Yet in the complaint against North Carolina, they say there is a financial aspect from the beginning. So they're in a position now. They're going to have to argue 2 separate points in 2 separate trials in opposite positions, and that's not going to go well for them. I think they're pretty much going to have to throw their hands up and say, okay, Florida State is gone. We can't do anything about Florida State. The battle lines are Clemson and North Carolina.
Yeah.
Can they win that battle? What do you think? I don't think they can once Clemson's gone too, and North Carolina also, right?
Well, I believe so. I think what this is about is trying to make sure to lower how much they're going to have to pay. We did a live show last night, and in that,
I enjoyed it.
On page 29 of the lawsuit that the ACC did just against Clemson in Mecklenburg County, on page 29 under 118, it's pretty clear to see
where they talk about. Yeah, they talk about. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to apologize. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
They were talking in there about that they had been talking beforehand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That there had been discussions.
Yeah.
With Clemson, had been negotiating openly and fairly with the ACC, and then the ACC drops this bomb on them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there did seem to be a after the January 17th, there seemed to be some discussions between Clemson and the ACC, and Clemson wanted confidentiality and protection that they would not get sued by the ACC. And the ACC was documenting all this, and then suddenly Clemson went and pulled the trigger. So that was the big news that came out of yesterday. If you missed it all in the PATC community, watch our live show from last night. But
well, Greg, thank you so much. My best to the little general, and tell your beloved mother that there are people who think about her and wish her well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Great call. Facts over fandom. Clemson just wanted to get more info. But even, I don't know what you mean by that. By the suit, by the lawsuit, or by having discussions with the ACC. But even in that Clemson lawsuit, it was, they just wanted a declaratory statement.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, can you hold on 1 second, sir?
Oh, sure.
I do appreciate it. In that, Clemson just wanted a declaratory statement. They want the courts to rule on the following: the fiduciary stuff, the exit fee, and if they have their own, if they leave the conference, do they have the rights to their own media rights prior to 2036? But even that, the ACC came back with a lawsuit and basically said, we're going to come back with damages. That's what it said later on in that lawsuit. I don't remember what page it was, but basically they're saying because you've done great harm to the conference by questioning the exit fee and the grant of rights. So, anyways, BJ, hold on 1 second. Opie with another super chat. Holy smokes. Thank you very much for your incredible generosity. If ESPN does not extend the GORE and until the ACC gets a new GORE in place, is it not worth $0 until then? So if you are a school, then how do you negotiate to get out of that? I hope that made sense. It does make sense. But the GORE would be in place until 2027. It would still be $140 million, $130 million in operational budget of the ACC. So that would be the exit fee. Now, traditionally, you pay 60% on an exit fee. I don't think any of that changes all of a sudden because the grant of rights goes into 2027. ESPN will continue to distribute ACC's content. ESPN will continue to pay the ACC, and the ACC will pay its schools based on the bylaws. So if ESPN does not extend the GORE, it still goes there to 2027. And in the meantime, the ACC will try to get a new media agreement for beyond 27. And of course, I think some schools will say no to everything, right? Those top 4, 5, 6 schools. But maybe they get outnumbered. But then maybe those top schools do not sign on for the next deal, but those other schools do, and they backfill, and the ACC still remains. So, again, anyways, that's the best way I can answer it. Opie, there's a lot of variables in there. Thank you so much for your kindness, for your generosity, once again to the channel. Very much appreciated. BJ, the floor is yours. Thank you for your patience, sir.
No problem. What's up, Greg? So I want to keep this to a particular issue or a particular subject because this can go all over the place in terms of like what's happening. But as it pertains to like this Clemson, North Carolina thing, Florida State thing leaving, I think it's important to, you can look at it from a fan's perspective or from a business perspective, right? To me,
the exit fee in particular is what Clemson is arguing, that it's outrageous and it's not in line with the industry. Is that how you perceive one of the arguments of
Can
the
you say that again?
that the exit fee is egregious and it is a penalty and not related to any financial loss or gain from the conference?
Yes, and
Okay.
and Clemson's one of their main points on that is they pointed out that Notre Dame, in that lawsuit, Clemson pointed out that Notre Dame, if they left the conference, they would have to pay the same $130 to $140 million exit fee. It says $140 in the lawsuit. Notre Dame would have to pay the same $140 million contract for the exit fee. But yet, their football, they have a media package with NBC. Not the same tier 1 tier contract that the rest of the ACC schools. So Clemson's saying that exit fee isn't based upon damages or punishment to the conference because Notre Dame leaving, they don't have this. They're not under the same umbrella. They're not under the same grant of rights, but they're getting the same exit fee. So therefore, Clemson says it's just based upon punishment and it's unjustified, unconscionable. So I just pointing that out. But go ahead, BJ.
Yes, I agree because I think they get a partial payment from the ACC. But I think the most telling artifact was they compared their fees, exit fees, to their counterparts, Big 12, SEC, Big 10, right?
Yeah.
And I think if I'm a judge and I'm looking at what are the other conferences' payouts or exit fees. And if you just compare the ACC's penalty, fee, as they call it, to other conferences, like conferences, it is obvious it's a penalty and not a fee.
Yeah.
Or, does that make sense?
Yeah, in the lawsuit, Clemson showed that, I don't remember the numbers, but every other conference's exit fee was a lot lower than the ACC. I think the Big 12 was 2 years worth of like $80 million, but the other ones were $40 to $50 million. Big 10 had zero. I think SEC had a little bit, like $30 million exit fee, and the ACC's at $140 million. Continue on.
So yeah, the SEC was if you give a 2-year notice, it's 30, but if it's a 1-year notice, it's like 45. But my point to that is, if I'm looking at it, right, it's obvious to me just by looking at the numbers that was pushed from ESPN to the ACC. We need to make sure these teams stay, so give them a big exit fee, just a penalty, for lack of a better terms. Because the SEC, their penalties before this one was fairly small. So they both had a contract with ESPN to create a network, but only one of these leagues increased their payout to 140. If I remember correctly, when Maryland left, the fee was around $30 million or $40 million. So it's telling to me that the ACC's exit fee jumped tremendously, and it's not in line with its counterparts.
But the Maryland exit fee was negotiated downward. It was
correct. I think it took $30 million. I think it was
60% on the dollar.
So to me, when I look at it, it is an obvious case where I think both in South Carolina and in Florida, they will be deemed a penalty. And the judge would probably tell the ACC it needs to be in line with your counterparts. Mm-hmm. So it may go down to $60 million, $50 million, right, for the exit fee. Now, that's a completely different argument from the grant of rights.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? I think the grant of rights is different now. The grant of rights, I think, is more, it's not with the ACC necessarily. That's more of the ACC have to make an argument with ESPN, in my opinion, because that's where the agreement is between. It's not between Florida State, Clemson, and ESPN. Those schools gave their rights to ACC to represent them in a manner that is beneficial. So
the ACC owns the rights of those schools.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think Florida State and Clemson or whoever cannot sue ESPN because the agreement is not between those two entities.
Yeah.
The agreement is between ACC and ESPN.
True, but it's becoming possibly the biggest mystery of this whole thing, BJ, is that Florida State made it pretty clear, and then Clemson doubled down, tripled down, and made it real clear that the big point of their lawsuit is Clemson believes that there is something there in that ACC ESPN agreement, that media agreement, that plainly states, and that's the language they use, and they said it's plain language, that there's something in there that limits the ACC scope in controlling our media rights if we leave the conference. There's some language in there. And none of us have seen it. It can't be out in public view. ESPN says it's the trade secret. I'm wondering if there's something in there that says ESPN kind of gave an out to the ACC and says it's okay if a school leaves as long as we can work with, I don't know what I don't know, but there's something there, BJ, that Florida State and Clemson keeps pointing to, and North Carolina Board of Trustees sort of pointed to it when he asked for ACC to be completely transparent, but he did not mention the word ESPN. Go ahead.
I think when it comes to that, the GRR has two things that come to mind. For one, I try to, take myself out of like it being a football contract or a media contract, just in everyday life. If I went to a school, I went to a university, and I was paying tuition, and I was expelled, right?
Yeah.
That school should not determine if I go back to another school or not. My contract with you ended, and yeah, I can't go back to this school. However, I should be free to apply to other schools and go to, and that's anything. The fact that my rights are being held. However, I'm no longer in the conference. You brought in 3 new schools for the fact that just to keep this contract alive. It makes no sense to me that if I'm no longer in the conference, I pay the exit fee, my rights should come along with me. And I think it's going to be one of those things where I think a judge is going to come down and say the ACC does not have the right to keep those rights after the business relationship between the school and the conference is over.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like common sense. Like you mentioned before about the grant of rights contract that nobody has ever seen, but it's, if you take your fandom out of it, it seems pretty common sense. If my relationship with you as a company ends, you should not hold my rights. Like if you were hired by a company to work as an employee, you get fired, they should not be able to get, all the money you make at your new job should not go back to your old job. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to me, taking the fandom out of it, just looking at it from a common sense perspective, I think that the schools are going to win. They may not get off scot-free, but I think the leverage is on the school's side. And lastly, I'll say this. I think it is, I follow college football and sports, period, like kind of closely, and I look at it from a business standpoint. I rarely get into it from a fandom standpoint because I'm just not really a big fan like that. I just like the interest and the intrigue of it.
Yep.
But I will say this. It is kind of, if you follow the history or the last 2 years of this kind of dilemma, the ESPN talking heads and all the talking heads, when it came to the ACC and their contract, it went from ironclad to maybe there's an out. So it makes me think that ESPN kind of gave the narrative. Hey, make this seem like you can't get out of this contract, and I think that's what Clemson was alluding to. Like the perception was this contract is ironclad. Anybody who tries to get out is going to be hammered.
Yeah.
to now, if you listen to the talking heads, the odds-on favorite is that Clemson and Florida State will be out of the league. So it's curious to me how the narrative has changed so swiftly.
To me, it's switched because Clemson, because people know things that they can't talk about right now in regards to equity firms, and what's going on is Clemson and Florida State are going to pay out to get out of the conference pretty much regardless. And what they're doing is they're going to try to lower the number. That's what this is about. That's what people believe.
Yeah.
But I do want to. I do have to get to an article here. And there's something more I got to talk about. But I appreciate the phone call, BJ. I'm sorry to cut you off, but.
Oh, you're good as always. Thanks for having me on. God bless.
Just to give everybody a heads up. I've been notified here. There's a real good chance that college football peek around the corner is going to have to come on live again later today. So keep your head on a swivel. I wanna. So BJ, I'm going to say bye to you now, but I probably will say hello to you later.
Sweet, I'll be on. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you, sir. I do appreciate it. I do have the phone lines off. Just give me a moment here. Let me get through some generous super chats once again. Sorry, it took me a while to get to them. Crab cakes and football need extra butter for the popcorn as well. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Carrie Gold Nose is like, less salt on the popcorn, please. Less salt. More butter, less salt. Holy smokes. But I do appreciate you guys' comments. Creative comments is what I love here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you so much for your super chat, for the incredible generosity you've all given me. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button and have your notifications on. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I've been told from somebody in the industry, I'll just say that, it looks like I'm going to have to go on live later again today, which I'll be very happy to. I'm going to leave it at that. But I would keep your head on a swivel. Now, we were only going to go on for so long here in the morning because I know everybody wants to watch basketball. But again, I'm probably going to have to interrupt your basketball viewing once again later on today. I do want to get to David Teal. Very good writer. You all know him. Clemson suing ACC, rooted in CFP revenue, further endangers the conference. And we alluded to this. This was going to be our big, this was our story last night. This was our story. Now, this article was published 5 hours ago, okay? But we had this information last night. We told you Clemson was hot, and it had to do about the CFP. It had to do about Notre Dame, what they're getting out of it. But anyways, but then we had to switch course, and we had to talk about the lawsuit that was filed from the ACC against Clemson in Mecklenburg County. Now, I'm going to go through this real quick. David Teal is an incredible writer. Clemson's lawsuit against the ACC does not mention college football. Let me pop this up a little bit more so you can actually see it. I hope that's better. Clemson's lawsuit against the ACC does not mention college football playoff. Moreover, the 28-page document doesn't even include the word football, the university's signature sports for decades. But make no mistake, Tuesday's filing came just as the playoff officials announced a 6-year, $7.8 billion contract extension with ESPN was not coincidental. It was not coincidental. Indeed. The contentious and public negotiations that landed with the Big Ten and the SEC bogarting most of the CFP television revenue, leaving the ACC yet further behind financially, pressed Clemson into action. Now, one of the PATC money shots on this. Like Florida State, 3 paragraphs down here. Like Florida State's late December suit against the ACC, Clemson seeks relief from the conference grant of rights, approximately $140 million exit fee. Yet Clemson's move feels different, further imperiling the league's future. Whereas the Seminoles, chronic malcontents, quick to blame the ACC for even their own missteps. How did that Willie Taggart hire work out in football? Joined the conference in 1991. The Tigers are charter members with 71 years invested. Now, listen to this. Along with colleagues, Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina State, and Miami, Clemson has long been exploring its legal options. The CFP ESPN deal was the tipping point, and not solely its revenue distribution. Per school shares for ACC members will more than double to 13 million, but the SEC and the Big Ten shares will more than triple to 21 million. Ruthless and callous doesn't begin to describe. Big Ten Commissioners Tony Petitti and SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey are not interested in sharing for the enterprise overall health and equity, or even earning additional money via performance. Performance pay is literally nothing. With the encouragement of their presidents, they simply intend to squash anyone in their path, regardless of collateral damage. Combined with CFP power play with the Big Ten and the SEC's ever-growing advantage in the regular season TV revenue, the concept of the Power 2 crystallizes. And why did the remainder of the bowl subdivision, including the ACC, cave to Sankey and Petitti? Because, as one athletic director said, they weaponized the eject button. They threatened to break away from the FBS and NCAA to create their own football fiefdom. But the Big Ten and the SEC's brazenness goes beyond revenue. It goes beyond revenue. After a decade-long run, the 4-team CFP will expand to 12 teams for the next 2 seasons. But the Big Ten and the SEC are already pushing for 14 teams in 2026 and beyond. Moreover, they proposed a 3-3-2-2-2-1 plan in which they would be guaranteed 3 playoff teams each, with 2 apiece in the ACC and the Big 12, and 1 for the G5. Independent Notre Dame would gain playoff access with a top 14 finish in the selection committee rankings. It goes on to talk about the Big Ten and the SEC having further, with their expansion, bringing on big universities. Excluding Notre Dame in 2020, the ACC CFP record is 6-4. The Big Ten's 5-7. But yet the Big Ten goes triple on their revenue. ACC only double. As with Florida State's suit, Clemson figures to take years to resolve. The ACC has countered suit each in North Carolina and shows no interest in its settling, pitting the conference against schools that have won 6 national football championships. Clemson says the grant of rights, which conveys the television rights for each school, is voided when the school departs. The league states the gore binds all who sign it through 2035 and 36. What no one can accurately project is what transpires during the next 3 months, let alone 3 years. How will the courts rule in various cases regarding athletic compensation and employment status? Are the Big Ten and the SEC truly poised to hit the eject button? And if so, are they interested in welcoming ACC brands such as Clemson, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina State, and arguably the most valuable North Carolina? Are some of those schools ready to pull the ripcord? That's the article. I just wanted to point that out. But again, David Teal says here, along with colleagues Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina State, and Miami, Clemson has been long exploring its legal options. These are the schools: Florida State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina State, Miami, and Clemson. So the beat goes on, it goes on, it goes on. Breakfast at tacos from Rudy's, no cheese. Don't need the cheese. Do not need the cheese. But thank you for the super chat, Bill G. I love cheese, but not on meat. Not on meat. Okay. I do appreciate you all. We're going to shut down the live show here. Have you all go watch your basketball tournament. Have fun. But, as I said about 10 minutes ago, keep your head on a swivel. Looks like we might have to go live again today. Something is percolating. Something is percolating. So keep your head on a swivel. If you are new to the channel, or if you haven't done so, please subscribe and open up your notifications. And then I'll try to give you guys a heads up on X, formerly known as Twitter. I will say this. Hopefully I will be in position to come on live immediately if another part of the story breaks. But if not, give me a little bit of a time. But if what's going down, the chances are we're going live again. I'm going to put it that way. And please be patient with me, and we'll do the best we can. But we're going to get prepared. That's all I'm going to say. So anyways, I want to thank you for your incredible generosity. Opie, everybody else, all those super chat, thank you so very much. Helping us keep the lights on, helping us to improve and give more time to the show. Unbelievable generosity. Great comments in the chat room. I'm sorry I couldn't get to more of them. And the great phone calls. And I'm sorry that I couldn't get to more of those phone calls. And BJ, I'm sorry that I cut you off there. I wanted to get that article in. But we got to get off so we can get back on. So, I think it's going to be a few hours yet. 2 or 3 hours. But anyways, keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. And until next time, which could be later today, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. See you later.